Hello from Tennessee. So, if you've been following the news lately, there's been a lot of talk about 39% tariffs against Switzerland. And as an avid watch collector enthusiast, I've been giving this some thought for sure. And one of the major reasons is I like Swiss watches. Um, I like Swiss watches a lot. I have a few Swiss watches. Swiss watches are my friend. And actually surprised me how many I actually have. And a lot of these, to be honest, are probably keepers as well. So that gives a little context there. There's another squally down there in the corner. And so I've been giving it some thought in terms of what's going on. And I think it's complicated for one thing. First off, the initial thought that came to my mind was just to take a quick glance historically about what's been going on. How did the Swiss become so prevalent in watchmaking? Was really the question I kind of posed to myself. And if you think about it, World War I, World War II, the Swiss were neutral. They did not pick a side. United States picked a side. I am glad they picked a side. You could argue potentially that the change in manufacturing base caused us not to be as competitive with the Swiss. And again, these are only watches. I think getting rid of an existential threat to humanity and the world was probably a good thing, but it still forced me to kind of ponder a little bit. And there were some definite casualties as a result of World War I and World War II that moved some U.S. watch companies, really kind of just took them off the map, so to speak. And that was, here's some of them right now. So New York Standard Watch Company closed in 1929. Trenton Watch Company merged into Ingersoll. E. Howard Watch Company closed in 1903. Waltham Watch Company closed in 1957, and the name was sold later. Elgin Watch Company was closed in 1968. Hamilton moved to Swatch Group, which is Swiss. Illinois Watch Company was sold to Hamilton and then discontinued in 1940. And South Bend Watch Company closed in 1929. So there was, back in the early to mid 1900s, there were U.S. based watch companies. You fast forward to today, there are very few that are doing anything here in the United States. And so it also got me to think a little bit in terms of, where do all the watches that the Swiss make, where do they go primarily, or what are their big markets? And as you could expect, Asia is a huge market, but Asia, over 2024, their consumption of Swiss watches declined about 7.5%. Europe, another big place for Swiss watches, stayed pretty stable. Their decline was just fractional at like 0.1%. And the United States, even though obviously a much smaller population when you're looking at Asia, but the United States increased 5.4%. So let's think about it, let me say it this way. Let's now look at some economic factors. Currently, there is a trade deficit with Switzerland and the United States, roughly $38.3 billion. Now, that's more than just watches. Um, the Swiss obviously do watches. I think they export some tech and medicine are the big three that they do. Um, and I also got to think too is like, you know, if you think about Switzerland, if you don't think about watches first, you think about Swiss bank accounts. And so I started to think, wonder how much money is in the Swiss banking system. And so by a little bit of research, $8.3 trillion are in the Swiss banking system. And remember, their population is small. It's nine. They have 9 million folks in Switzerland. The U.S. banking system, with a population of 340 million, we're more than double that, but there's 17.3 trillion in our banking system. And then also the other thing that came to mind too, which is a big thing today from an economic standpoint, is just energy and where your energy comes from. And the Swiss, most of their energy comes from Germany, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Italy, which is about 60%. So just interesting little economic factors, kind of hard to tie all together. But remember at the beginning of this, I said that I think things are more complex too as well. And we have a president who is a negotiator and is trying, I think, to look out for the best interests of the United States and maybe trying to even the playing field a little bit too as well. And also, from things I'm seeing in the news right now, it sounds like the Swiss president potentially is coming to meet with our president too as well. So whether or not this 39% tariff is going to come to fruition, I would dare hedge that 50% chance is probably not going to. That's just my personal opinion. And then the last thing that I kind of started thinking about, um, you know, from an economic standpoint, one thing that you hear out in the economic realm a lot is folks talking about GDP. And so I thought, like, let's look at GDP and let's more specifically look at like GDP per capita. And so GDP per capita, very basic definition is obviously it stands for gross domestic product. And then if you add in the per capita, it's simply a measure of the country's economic output per person, essentially dividing the total value of goods and services produced by the population. And it's often used as an indicator of the country's standard of living or economic well-being. And in terms of GDP per capita, Switzerland outpaces the United States. 105K to 90K. So by a lot of measures, Switzerland is doing quite well. I was just thinking as I'm talking, I'd be curious about, taxes and so forth too as well. I did not dig into that. And so this has kind of gone on a while now, this video, but I think, like I indicated, I think when you start talking about tariffs, they're an economic tool. They are a driver towards something else, especially the way the current administration is using them. And so, as a watch enthusiast who loves Swiss watches, I'm not sure how it's going to impact that. It very well could have a detrimental effect in terms of just raising the cost of watches. I think for us that love watches, there are other outlets we can buy used, we can defer for a while. And again, they're only watches. And by most standards, I have more than enough Swiss watches currently. If I had never bought another one, it wouldn't matter. So that's it. This is a departure from what I normally do. I find economics interesting. I know nothing about economics. I do find it interesting. We live in a world that is driven by economic factors. And I think when we talk about tariffs, I know it can be polarizing, but I also think that America, the United States, has been given away a lot of resources and at the detriment of the people of this country. So that's I'm on my soapbox a little bit too as well. But I think that trying to help us in the United States is a benefit, hopefully. And while watches could be a casualty in the short term, I'm hoping that it is a more of a mid to long term gain for us as U.S. citizens. So that's it. As always, stay positive, make friends, enjoy the journey. Take care, everybody.